everybody, welcome to the Magic Weekly News Update on the Leek. I'm John as always, and it's been a while. Let's briefly talk about that. So if you're newer to the channel, I used to do weekly news updates every single Sunday morning. I would talk about all the news that happened that week, give my takes on it, typically talk down some of the hyperbole and gloom and doom that was happening, and we'd go from there. Now, I kind of stopped doing them for a number of different reasons. One is that by Sunday, most of the news had gotten very stale. A lot of our Magic news comes out on Mondays. If I was doing them Sundays, it was upwards of a week old that the news was. They were static screens. I wasn't on camera, and I didn't like that. I wanted the videos to be a little bit more dynamic. And as well, it was hard to kind of set that up. I needed to set up my DSLR camera, which didn't autofocus, and set up my green screen, and etc. And it was a big, gigantic hassle. Now I've got a better setup that I can more easily set up and take down really easily with my webcam, so that should make it easier there as well. Finally, the community got real negative. The Magic community has been doom and gloom and extraordinarily negative about every single decision, every single news bit that comes out, that I just couldn't deal with it. I just couldn't deal with trying to fight against that non-stop, and unfortunately nothing's changed. The community is still very much doom and gloom there, but I guess I'm gonna try to tackle it in the new resurrected Magic Weekly News Update. Now, if you do happen to be new to these, you're not going to get the doom and gloom and hyperbole here. You're going to get some rationalizations. You're not going to get non-stop Wizards of the Coast bashing. I will say when I disagree with one of their decisions. In fact, we'll talk about some today that I think are really bad. But you're not going to get that doom and gloom here. You're going to get rational takes. But I do definitely want to hear your takes in the comments down below. Try to keep them rational. But if you disagree, you can certainly let me know. But without further ado, let's take a look at the first story. Up first, to basically no one's chagrin, Nexus of Fate was finally banned, but banned very explicitly from Best of 1 standard on Arena. Not from Best of 3 on Arena, not from any specialty formats on Arena, and not from anywhere in paper, which is an interesting choice, but honestly isn't that unprecedented. We have different ban lists in Standard and Commander and Modern. Having a different ban list in Best of 1 versus Best of 3 isn't that huge of a change. As I've frequently said to people, it's best to look at Magic Arena's formats as being different from everything else. Best of 1 Arena is different than Paper Standard. It's a different format. Just like I think Arena Drafting is a different format because of the bots, because of leagues, etc. So it's not a huge problem for me that there are now different ban lists within Standard, because I do consider them to be different formats. And all in all, I think it's a good change. The card was obnoxious to deal with because people were just being dicks about it. They were playing this card for the lulz, for the memes, or whatever you kids call it these days, and they were looping it without win conditions. Just for hours. It happened on stream a few times with Magic Pro League members, and enough was enough. So Nexus of Fate has been banned. If you did have Nexus of Fates before this was announced, then you did get Mythic Wildcards in return for them. You still have the cards because, as I said, they're still viable for Best of 3, they're still viable for Singleton, and for any other format, just not for Best of 1 Standard. So, good change by my account. Up next, people got up in arms because Judge shirts are no more. So it was announced on the Magic Judges blog that Wizards of the Coast would no longer be handling the Judge Black's t-shirt. Dress shirt, which caused outrage amongst not judges, just Magic Redditors mostly. So Wizards of the Coast previously would technically provide these shirts for free for judges who needed them, which was only Grand Prix judges. No judges below a Grand Prix required a judge shirt. I've never judged a Grand Prix, so I never technically required one. I did get one eventually, though, because we did a charity tournament where the head judge wanted us to have the uniforms. Now, this is not going away. Judges are not going to be wearing Hawaiian shirts from now on. Channel Fireball has picked it up, and they are now going to be producing their own judge shirts for the Grand Prix run by CFB events, which is all of them, and judges are going to have to pay for those shirts, which was another bit of outrage that we'll get to in a second. Now, first off, the judge shirts were not easy to come by. It was kind of a running joke that judge shirts were in very short supply and had been for a very long time. Typically, you got someone's hand-me-down that they had grown out of or no longer needed or had extras. If you were lucky, maybe your regional coordinator was going to be at the same event as you, and maybe they had a shirt that was in your size in their very limited stock. They were not shirts that just every judge easily had access to. We couldn't just email Wizards and say, oh, hey, I want another 7 shirts. They were hard to come by, so it's not a huge change that they're going away. Secondly, the fact that you have to buy them from Channel Fireball now isn't that big of a deal either. Basically, every referee league, if you're a rec league football ref or a beer league hockey ref or whatever, you have to buy your shirts for that. In fact, where I live in Ontario, any job that has a uniform, your employer is allowed to deduct that from your income. I know that's different province by province, state by state, but this really isn't a huge deal, and it's going to be a low cost. It's going to be whatever the cost of the shirt is. CFB is not going to be making money off of selling these shirts to their contractors. So not a big deal, but boy, did people pick it up as another example of how paper magic is dying, and people were declaring that they were going to protest. They were going to show up in shirts that looked like judge shirts to stand in defense of their poor, trodden down judges. And as a judge, we don't care. Some people are annoyed. They liked the black and they're worried about, the shirt maybe becoming yellow or something, but this isn't a big deal. The judges don't care. You don't have to defend them here. Don't worry. Move on with your life. There's other stuff going on. Up next, we got the War of the Spark teaser trailer, which is a really cool cinematic trailer. I actually really enjoyed it. I know some people thought it was too short or it didn't reveal every secret of the entire set, so it was bad. I don't care. It was a cool little teaser. We got to see a spire on Ravnica that had 36 windows, and every window was a really cool bit of stained glass art of a planeswalker, including Gideon, who we fly through his chest, so who knows what that happens to symbolize, into a chandelier of candles with all the candles slowly going out, and then one final one flickering and then also going out, left with Bolas's horns. Interesting trailer. Who knows what any of this means? Does this mean Gideon's dead because he's got a hole in his chest? Does this mean the planeswalkers are dying, or are they losing their spark? Is one planeswalker holding out and then still dying but getting rid of Bolas? What is happening here? We don't entirely know. We're going to have to wait to get more information on War of the Spark. Hopefully from a full trailer. I'm quite certain this was a teaser trailer, especially because I believe it hyped up PAX, which happens long before War of the Spark comes out. So I would expect that we actually get a full trailer once PAX East happens and the Mythic Invitational. So yeah, interesting trailer. All those Planeswalker arts, there was a lot of speculation about them. Are they going to be masterpieces? Are they in the set? Are all 36 Planeswalkers in the set? We don't quite know, but we did see on a Tumblr post, I believe it was, that the art is actually not new. Those pieces of art were repurposed into stained glass versions. For example, the Kaya, I believe, was the masterpiece version of Kaya's art, and obviously the Planeswalker from the novel that was just released. I can't remember his name, but he's a Dimir agent, or looks like a Dimir agent. It was just the art from the book that was taken. So yeah, I don't know what that art's going to be used for. Morrow mentioned it being in the set, but of course that could mean anything from just being key art that's not actually in a card to being cards that are in packs. Who knows? We'll have to find out later. Magic Fest Memphis happened this weekend with, of course, the Grand Prix at Magic Fest Memphis. For those who are confused, I know some people are, it's really simple. Magic Fests are the events that are happening, and every Magic Fest has a Grand Prix, which is the big tournament that you play in. So you can call them Grand Prix if you're just talking about the Grand Prix. You can call them Magic Fests, whatever. All this sassy tweets that I see going on when somebody says Grand Prix and somebody goes, well, didn't you mean Magic Fest? Wink, 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 wink. It doesn't matter. Anyways, Magic Fest, Jackhammer happened this weekend. People arrived at the hall to the thunderous sound of jackhammers nearby. That just went on all day long. Now, of course, this was no fault of WotC or CFB. This is beyond their control. Nobody knew that construction was going to happen that day. And people were, I would say, between reasonably annoyed and unreasonably annoyed, saying, oh, WotC screwed up again. But CFB very quickly was able to secure a new hall before the Saturday Grand Prix event started. They got free pastries and coffee and pizza, I believe, probably from the venue. That was provided by CFB, but I'm betting it was provided by the venue, rather. So yeah, a very quick resolution to what could have been a really obnoxious weekend, and I think it was a really good bit of PR on CFB's part. So, Grand Prix Jackhammer went okay. Now, Magic Fest Jackhammer did not have any video coverage because, of course, that has been an ongoing news story, which I'm not going to address because it didn't happen last week. But video coverage of Grand Prix is in limbo. We don't know what's happening. But some people assumed video coverage was dead and everybody had been fired. From day one, I said that's unlikely. We're going to definitely get coverage of the Pro Tours, now called Mythic Championships. And sure enough, we are. We got the announcement today that there will be full coverage of Mythic Championship number 1 2019 being held at Magic Fest Cleveland this weekend. And we got the full coverage team, which is all the usual people, BDM and Maria and Marshall and Paul and etc. All the names that you expect are going to be there. So good to see that. We still definitely need to get some sort of actual answer on what's happening with video coverage. It could be that contract negotiations are holding this up. It could be they're afraid of saying we're not doing it anymore. Who knows what's happening, but I do really want an answer about that shortly. But to briefly touch on that news story, it super sucks for those who really enjoyed watching the coverage. I've seen a lot of people say, oh, well, now there's no point in going to a Grand Prix. Your friends are still there. Magic is still there. The prizes are still there. You still top 8 and go to the Pro Tour. If you were going to a Grand Prix explicitly for the very off chance of appearing on camera, your priorities are a little weird. I'm sorry. I'm going to Grand Prix Niagara. Doesn't matter to me that there's no coverage. I'm still going to have just as good a time as if there was coverage. So not a big deal for me, but good to see that we are getting coverage for the Mythic Championship. Some more news that we're not really going to go massively in-depth in, of course, is the pre-release of War of the Spark, which is happening the same weekend as Grand Prix London, Magic Fest London, and Mythic Championship number 2 at Magic Fest London. This was a big deal because, of course, a lot of stores would be running pre-releases in and around that area, and they may lose some amount of customers. I think it's being slightly overstated how much they will lose, but they will lose some customers, and it's certainly going to hurt. So the stores kind of got together and said, hey, WotC, could we maybe get a pre-release a week early? I think that was massively unrealistic, and I don't think anybody should have expected it. A week early is a massive amount of time when it comes to shipping sets worldwide. Those shipping dates, those shipping fees are already probably paid. And getting it a week early was not going to happen. But it was announced today that they will be getting it a day early. So any store in the UK can run a War of the Spark pre-release on Friday. So technically, they could start them at Thursday at midnight. And I think this is a decent change. I think it's probably around the best they could do. Obviously, there was going to be massive backlash from people who weren't in the UK if places were getting to do these pre-releases a week early. I'm in London, Ontario, Canada. That would be really dumb if I had to watch these people in one country play this a week early before I got to play it, just because they complained a lot or because WotC happened to choose London as the place to do this Grand Prix. It was unrealistic. So I think a day early is a good change. I think it's really good because clearly WotC said, oh, yeah, that was a bad choice. We're definitely hurting these stores. Let's immediately reply with a fix that we're going to apply. So I think it was a good move on WotC's part. I'm not going to get into Grand Prix London. I think the idea of a pre-release Grand Prix is really nifty, really cool. If it was nearby, I'd certainly give it a go. But there's a lot to dissect there, and I don't want to do it. So I'm just going to announce and mention the news that we heard today that they are going to be able to do pre-releases a day early. In addition, any store in Europe as a whole is going to be able to sell all War of the Spark products starting on August 27th, the first day of pre-releases. That means that not only can pre-ordered boxes be picked up, but those stores can sell boxes, they can sell packs, they can sell Planeswalker decks, which they already could have, they can sell any War of the Spark merchandise they want to during the pre-release. That's probably, they said it was a test. Who knows, maybe it will be something they roll out. It could also just be another sort of answer to the Grand Prix debacle, because of course people in France will travel to London. It's not that far, just across the channel, to play in the Grand Prix, so maybe this will help keep people in their locales as opposed to going to this Grand Prix. Last week as well, Magic Arena received a not small but not big update where several things were added. One of the big things that was added was direct challenges for best of threes. Prior to this, you could only do best of one challenges. That caused some trickiness when it came to running tournaments like the Twitch Rivals event. But now you can challenge somebody to a best of three match where you can also get choices like, is there a coin flip? Is it, just this person wins the coin flip, this person loses the coin flip, or do you just want a true coin flip? So that's going to be very good for running tournaments. They don't have to do any of that shenanigans of having your main deck saved and having a sideboarded deck version saved and having a different sideboarded deck version saved and having to, re-challenge until the coin flip went the right way. Really good change there. In addition, there was some updates to the deck builder, which I was excited about, and they weren't quite as good as I had hoped. You can now zoom in and out, one step only, there's no slider, it's just in or out, of the pool of cards that you are building from, whether that's your sideboard in Limited or your entire pool if you're just building a constructed deck. I would have much preferred to have seen the ability to slide kind of the zoom. I want to go really far out, basically. I want to see a whole bunch of cards, and I would have really enjoyed if I could do that on my deck. In addition, there were no sorting features added, which I think is really missing from the deck builder. I want to be able to sort my deck by CMC. I want to be able to sort it by color. I want to be able to sort my pool by color or by CMC or by rarity. That's really missing from the deck builder, and I really, really, really need to see that before I'm going to be super excited about that deck builder. There are a few other things. If you click the little stats button, there are now more stats telling you the breakdown of spells and creatures and CMCs, and it looks different, and there's more information there. None of it's terribly useful, but more information isn't awful, right? And then there was one more major change to Arena that we're going to have to talk about. And maybe you haven't even heard this, because it's probably not going to affect many people unless it does, and it gets moved out. So in the play queue, only. The play queue is the best of one queue that doesn't matter. There are no prizes. It does not affect your rank. You go in there if you are trying to test out a new deck, or perhaps if you're trying to grind out some quest progression. That's about all you get from these. So not many people play this, or at least I don't, and I've never seen anybody play it. Maybe the new players play it. In those best of one play queues, there is now hand smoothing, as there always has been in Best of One, where it shuffles up and it draws you two hands and it gives you the better of the two, the one that is more representative of the amount of lands in your deck. However, now it does three, so it draws three hands and gives you the best of those three. But there is something called smooth shuffling now added, where they actually shuffle your deck. They take another copy of your deck and they shuffle that deck. And they look at those two decks, or sorry, three now actually. It would have been two, now it's three. They look at those three decks and they say, okay, which one has the least clumps of land in it? Which are least likely to be affected by Mana Screw or Mana Flood? This one? Okay, this is the one that we give you. This is cheating. This is not Magic. This is arguably set up to prevent there being too many non-games. Games where you draw 12 lands in a row and you just lose, which sucks for a new player. But lands and land variance is built into Magic. It's not considered a bug. It's considered a feature by Morrow and other designers within Magic. It's a feature because new players can go up against LSV and 5% of the time they can win because he draws 12 lands. And they get this story of, oh, I beat this guy this one time. Lost the other 99 times, but that one time I beat him. And it's not a big deal. The fact that we are now not only manipulating the starting hands, but manipulating the deck really is pulling Arena away from being Magic. And that concerns me. But it concerns me if this leaves the play queue and comes into best of one draft or comes into best of one constructed, ranked constructed, things like that. We don't know that it will, and I don't like to deal in what ifs. I like to deal in announcements. I like to deal in facts. If this happens, there's going to be some words had here, because I think this is an awful, awful, awful choice. I think it's putting bubble-wrapped training wheels on new players. If new players are expected to go into these play queues and play with these perfectly stacked decks, and they're expected to eventually graduate, they're going to have such a worse time graduating to the real queues that they're just going to have a miserable experience. So I'm not sold on this being the way to introduce new players. I think it's just real bad. I think it's real bad. But as I said, it's only in the play queue, so hopefully it doesn't affect you. It certainly doesn't affect me, and hopefully it never will. So let's see what happens to this going forward. Hopefully there's enough negative backlash if they do ever attempt to do that it doesn't happen. But we'll see. We'll see. Finally, for today, we're going to talk about the last big bit of news that came out, which was that there's no more MSRP on Magic products going forward with War of the Spark, which was a weird bit of news. It kind of came out of nowhere. If you gave me the job of listing 100 things that were going to happen today in Magic, this would not have made the list. So MSRP is a manufacturer's suggested retail price, which is applied to all Magic products only sold in the US. It doesn't mean anything else outside of the US. And even then, nobody's beholden to actually charging that price. And in fact, nobody does. The MSRP of a box of boosters is $143.64 US. Booster boxes, nobody sells that for that price. CFB sells them for $100. Amazon sells them for $89 right now, or whatever, or $84, or whatever it is. And then from the vault, their MSRPs were $25. They were sold for hundreds, 120, 150. FTV 20 was a higher MSRP of like $35, and it was going for like $300 at one point. Nobody cares about MSRP. It was never upheld. The MSRP of a pack is $3.99. A lot of stores charge $3.50, charge $2.85 sometimes. It's not a big deal that MSRP is going away. A lot of people have jumped on this, of course, to say, oh, well, now we're going to get gouged out of our minds. That pack that had an MSRP of $3.99, well, this store doesn't have to do that anymore. They're going to charge $2,200 for a pack of cards. That's obviously hyperbole. Yeah, people are losing their minds over this, and I don't understand it. The stores were already overcharging and undercharging MSRP. Why will this change anything? And especially a very big point is most local game stores' bread and butter, their highest margins, the thing that keeps them alive is singles. Selling singles has kept every store alive ever. Selling packs has not. Selling sealed product never has. Singles have never had an MSRP. And while I'm sure some people will say that we're being gouged on the prices of singles, we're not really. The market is very stable. The prices are very much set by supply and demand. And so the lack of MSRP there hasn't really been a big deal. Furthermore, MSRP has basically died on almost all products. Growing up, I remember commercials always saying manufacturers suggest a retail price of $14.99 on toys and on clothes and on all kinds of stuff. And that doesn't happen anymore because the reality of it is online has killed any need for the MSRP. It's just an outdated, unuseful bit of information tacked onto a product. In addition, it caused a lot of confusion as Wizards would often announce prices or announce products saying, you know, this new product is coming out and it costs $24 in the US only. And people would say, oh, it's only coming out in the US? No, they have an MSRP, so they have to say it, and they have to say that it's only in the US, and it causes confusion. There's no real problem with the MSRP going away that I see. I have seen some people say, oh, well, this is them secretly raising the price of packs. They're going to take away the MSRP. They're going to tell distributors and tell retailers, okay, guys, we can't tell you what to charge, but we're going to start charging you more to buy them from us. So now packs are actually $4.50 or whatever. And then the stores will have to raise the prices, and then we're all mad at the stores, and we're not mad at Wizards of the Coast. But what store is going to keep that quiet. We can't have stores not be sharing promos and sharing every bit of information they get long before Wizards of the Coast wants it to come out. If this happens, we're going to know the second any store knows, because they're going to go yelling about it for sure. So if it happens, which it might, we haven't had an increase in the MSRP of packs in 13 years. But if it happens, we're going to hear about it. It's not going to be some secret, and we're going to know that it's Wizards that did it. We're not going to get mad at the stores. So I don't buy that conspiracy theory. I don't buy the conspiracy theory that now Amazon can massively undercut the stores. The online retailers, Cool Stuff Inc., Channel Fireball, they've already been doing that for years and years and years and years. And surprise, some of the people who are yelling at it are sponsored by or work for those companies. So no surprise. Anyways, not a big deal. I don't think it's a big deal. We'll have to see if it's a big deal, but I don't think it's going to be. Anyways, that's going to wrap it up for the weekly Magic News Update this week. Let me know what you think of these coming back. Let me know what you think of the stories as well, the format, etc. I think I was maybe a little bit rambly. I didn't have a script this time, and that's really one of the things that killed weekly Magic News Update before, is I had to write the script, which took an hour and a half to write all that out. And then I had to read the script and do all the takes and whatnot. So it's a little bit easier if I'm talking off the cuff. I have a proto script in my head, but I don't have a script that I'm actually reading off of. If I had to script this, we just wouldn't have this video series. But let me know what you think. Let me know if you want this to come back every week, etc. Let me know all that stuff in the comments down below. As always, you can find me over on Twitter. You can find me on Facebook. You can find me on twitch.tv/TheManaLeak and patreon.com/ManaLeak. If you're going to go to inkedgaming.com and use buy any products from them, use the promo code ManaLeak10, all one word, 10 is the number, to get 10% off your order. Click that thumbs up button, click subscribe if you want to see more, and if you do have questions, comments, or suggestions, let me know. Otherwise, see y'all next time.